And just a heads up, this is going to be a personal development session that we're doing. So if you want to grab a pen and paper or whatever you want to write with, now's a good time to do that. I know some of you like writing on your phones. Me, I'm still an old-fashioned pen and paper kind of person.
I am too, and I think that we should start now. I would like to welcome everyone to our speaker series. My name is Owen Sikudla, and I will be moderating tonight. I am in IB1, and I am born and bred in the Kingdom of Eswatini. I am not alone. I am with the Advancement Office team, and together we will be running today's show. And I'd like to firstly say thank you for taking time out of your day to join us and to attend our speaker series. There are a few faces that we see each and every time, and we just wanted to let out our gratitude. You know, we're very grateful that you continuously support us and you attend these alumni speaker series. And today I have the honor of introducing one of the greatest persons I've met in the space of a few minutes, Zoe D. Smith, and I'm quickly going to read her bio as people continue to trickle in. Please do remember that we will be recording this meeting, and please, if you have any questions, the Q&A and the chat is always open. We're always eager to see people interact in the chat. It's always nice to read, especially seeing alumni interact. And if we can, and if we have time at the end of the session, we will keep the meeting open so everyone can, you know, talk to their peers, and we'll even open the breakout rooms. Last time we had the breakout rooms into your individual year groups, and it was really cool. So on that note, I hope everyone has their pen and paper and we're ready. And introducing to you Zoe Dean Smith, Vice President of the Economic Empowerment Entrepreneurship Vital Voices Global Partnership, a WK alumna, 1976. Zoe is an award-winning social entrepreneur, social impact visionary with experience in economic empowerment and entrepreneurship, community development, leadership, and mentoring across sectors including social enterprise, for-profit business, and non-profit organizations around the world, with a driving force to provide solutions and bring positive change. At Vital Voices, Zoe is responsible for driving the organization's global approach to economic empowerment and entrepreneurship to advance the organization's mission. She provides vision and leadership for the organization's economic empowerment and entrepreneurship-focused programs. Between 2007 and 2011, based in Eswatini, Zoe served as Senior Director of Vital Voices Global Entrepreneurs in Handicrafts Program. During this time, she worked with TechnoServe, developing Eswatini's handicraft sector, and with International Finance Corporation grassroots business initiatives across Africa and Southeast Asia.
Thank you.
2012.
You don't have to read it all. You don't have to read it all, please.
No problem. The guest has said I don't have to read it all, so I shall then hand over to Zoe. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you, and welcome to everyone. It's so great to see you. If you just joined us, I have two computers. I have the one in front of me, which has got the presentation I'm going to share, and one to the side where I can see all your faces. So if I'm looking to the side, it's because I want to see you. What we're going to do today, first of all, let me say thank you very much to Waterford for inviting me here. It's so great to connect, and I'm seeing a lot of faces that I know from my time at Waterford, as well as some new faces. So I hope you're going to enjoy the time that we spend together. This is going to be a personal development workshop. I usually do it in about 2 hours, and we're trying to squeeze it into 90 minutes. So I'm going to try and go through it fairly fast, but not so fast that you feel like you don't get it all. So first of all, I just want to acknowledge my brother. All of the photographs that you're going to see in this presentation were taken by him. He lives in Durban, and he has a pump business, but as a side gig, he loves underwater photography and other stuff. So just about every picture that you see here is one of his, and I thought they were so inspiring that I hope you'll enjoy them as we go through this. So, oh, now I can't, hang on a sec. I've got to get my mouse to move. There we go. So the guidelines for today, one is just please take notes as we go along. Normally we discuss these things, but because we have limited time, I'll ask you to share notes and share any thoughts that you have in the chat. And if you have any questions, please do raise your hand. I don't know if you all know how to do that on Zoom. If you click on participants, down at the bottom, there's a little button where you can raise your hand and I'll be able to see you. So the agenda for today, I want to share a little bit about what led me to first doing this exercise. And then we'll have a little reflection on where each of you are in your life right now. And then we will talk through the 11 categories that are that make up this holistic life map exercise. If we have time, I'll share a couple of philosophies that have worked for me in life. I'm not sure if we're going to have that time, but we'll give it a go. So I want to start with this. Fill your own cup before you share. If your glass is half empty, you're depleting your own reserves. But if your glass is full and overflowing, you have an abundance to share. And I don't know if that resonates with you, but if you climb onto a plane, when they say to you, if we're going to crash, grab your own air before you take care of the next person. This is all about that. If you take care of yourself in life, you have so much more to give to everybody else. And I'm sure that many of you on this call can relate to it, especially if you're parents and you're running a business and you're trying to do so many things at the same time and you're giving and giving and giving and not taking care of yourself. You do deplete your reserves. So this exercise is about thinking about how do you take care of yourself before anybody else, because then you have that abundance. So a little bit about my life journey. As you know, I went to Waterford for a year and then I went to Pretoria Girls High. And at the end of my schooling, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I did an aptitude test. And one of the results came back and said, do architecture. And I used to doodle in my school book. So my dad said, yeah, that's what you should do. And so I spent my first 13 years working in architecture in Swaziland, in the UK, and in South Africa. And I see Elton is on this call. I actually worked with his dad for a number of years designing buildings in Swaziland. And my first boss that I had, some of you might also know him, Mike Orwin, was an amazing boss, because in that first job, he really stretched me. My first job that I ever had was supervising the construction of this apartment block in Manzini. Some of you might recognize it. I think it was the National Housing Board. And it was a super cool sort of introduction into thinking I was going to be just sort of like working in the back office. And he said, no, go and supervise this. I want you to manage it from start to finish. So that's always stuck with me in terms of sort of how to think about managing people in life and sort of giving them belief in themselves. During that time, I started teaching group fitness and I became a spin instructor, and I still teach on Zoom, believe it. Through when COVID broke out, I started on Zoom and still doing that. During my time, in fact, when I was working with Peter Smoor, I decided that I wanted to actually go and be a water skiing instructor at Club Med. So I created this crazy resume, sent it off to Club Med, and I got the job without an interview, just based on that CV, where I just listed just about everything I'd done. And they were all like amateur things, like I came second in a sailing regatta and stuff like that. But I got the job and loved the time that I spent there. But I left because of a boss. If any of you know Club Meds, you know they work in 6-month seasons, and my boss in my second season was a toxic piece of work who had people who were all doing sort of like really serious drugs and stuff like that, and it just made me feel so uncomfortable. I thought, I want to stay at Club Med, but I don't like him. So I went back home, went back into working with a building design group, and then a year later, the business downsized. And so I moved out, and one of my bosses found me my next job. And in fact, I wanted to show this picture. This is a house. Some of you may know Beverly Hills. I think you can see it from the Waterford Hill. This was the first house that was ever built on Beverly Hills for Barry and Wendy Reed. I then spent my next 2.5 years working with Swazi Business Growth Trust, which was a microfinance institute, and I was doing human resource management and HR. And I left because the organization went into liquidation. But during that time, I produced the Rocky Horror Show, and I've included a couple of pictures here. You might recognize some of these people. Jenny Thorne, who is the mother of Jigs and Sholto and Roly. From Malandelas and A House on Fire. Jenny was played the part of Magenta, and in the middle picture is Sibusiso Mamba, who I cast as Riff Raff, and he was at Waterford, and he was, I think, in his last year at Waterford. So I used to drive him up to school after rehearsals every night. And I think because of this production, he was recognized by the British High Commissioner and got into RADA in London. So that was a really, really fun experience. But that actually I tell a story about this because it led into part of my career journey. After I was downsized out of that microfinance work, I was headhunted to work for an industrial catering company called Kagiso Kulani Supervision Food Services, and ended up managing kitchens, industrial kitchens in Matsapa and in a couple of country clubs, etc. But I felt I was really, really out of my depth. And as you're looking at this, you're probably thinking, holy cow, what a sort of like a zigzaggy kind of career journey. And one of the reasons why I like to share this story is especially with young people, if you're just starting out in your journey into life, leaving school, I like to show this as almost like the complete opposite of what I thought I would be doing when I left school, which was going to be probably architecture for the rest of my life. And you can see how it already started shifting all over the place. I left because I was out of my depth. And I go back to Jenny Thorne. After we did that production of the Rocky Horror Show, we had a cast of about 40 people and a backstage crew of about 35 people. And I bumped into her just when I was leaving this catering company. And she said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm looking for a job." And she said, "Well, I want you to take those organizational skills and come and help me run my handcraft business." So I joined her at Gone Rural, that some of you might know, down in Malkerns, and spent a number of years there. Loved working there. And it was the first time that I'd ever been in a job where I was working and I felt like my job actually impacted many more people than just myself. You know, we were working with about 700 rural Swazi women. Many of them were HIV grandmothers. And so I felt that responsibility every day, and it was a really good feeling. And so I joined Jenny in 1999, and in 2001, Philippa came and joined us, and she was a design intern. And during that time, she started dating Sholto, Jenny's middle son. And in 2003, Jenny passed away. She and I were business partners, and she passed away very suddenly from leukemia within about 6 weeks of being diagnosed. And it was a shock. You know, when I joined her, I felt like, okay, I'll stay with her for a little while and then I'll move on to the next thing. But after she passed away, I felt that responsibility of those 700 women sitting on my shoulders. So I stepped into the role of managing director, and I invited Philippa to join me in the business as my partner. And she and Sholto got married. So it was a super, for me, like a gift from the universe that we're continuing to keep the business in the family. And Philly came with a lot of incredible design expertise, as some of you already know. And we started winning awards at the trade shows that we did in South Africa. And the picture that you can see on the right was one of the shows that we did in Joburg, and we'd won a gold award. And in 2004, I was standing at that trade show with a friend of mine, Eugenie, who was one of our customers. And she said to me, you know, I wonder how much Philly would have blossomed if Jenny was still here. And she wasn't saying that Jenny was holding her back. What she was saying was that Philly now had a space to grow and really sort of go into new avenues. And that conversation has stuck with me. So I'm going to come back to that in a minute. We started working with the International Finance Corporation in 2005, and they started taking me to Washington, D.C., to Ghana, all over the place to talk about this incredible social enterprise that we were running. And in 2005, I met Elise, who's my current CEO, and Vital Voices at the conference in Ghana. had a conversation with her and forgot about it. And towards the end of 2006, I kind of felt like I was reaching my glass ceiling within the business. I'd made all the changes I was going to make, and I was kind of like in cruise mode, but didn't feel like I was growing. And we had taken on a third person in a management position with us. And we got to a point where we couldn't sustain all three of us. And I thought about that conversation with Eugenie, and I thought, of the three of us who are here, who's the one who's holding it back? And I felt like it was me. I'd made the changes I was going to make, and I decided to resign. And when I told the IFC, they freaked out. They said, no, you can't do that because you're the captain of the ship. You're the one that we know. And I said, no, Philly is ready to be my successor. So they said, well, listen, we know that you want to launch a foundation to help the gone rural women with social upliftment projects. So we'll pay your salary for a year to launch a foundation and to mentor Philippa. And I said, of course, deal. That was like super cool thing. A great way to sort of be able to do that other work that Jenny had always wanted to do. So we did that. And in 2005, it was also the first time I ever did this holistic LifeMath exercise. So skipping on, I spent the next year as the founder of the Volmager Rural Project, as they're now called. And in that time also found my successor, who I think is on this call as well, Yael, who came in and took over running Volmager projects. And I started doing a little bit of consultancy work with the IFC. So at the end of that year, I went into doing consulting work, and I started working with TechnoServe in Swaziland, with Vital Voices, and with the IFC, and had an amazing experience traveling around the world, basically teaching women who are export ready how to take their businesses, their handcraft businesses, to different places. And I presented my first LifeMath workshop in Argentina at this time. But all of that funding came to an end from all of those different pieces at the same time towards the end of 2011. And it was actually at the Bushfire Festival that I bumped into a friend of mine, and she told me about this position that was available with the Coca-Cola Africa Foundation. And I thought, okay, well, I'll apply for that. I probably won't get it, but I'll apply. And I applied, and I actually got the job. So I relocated to Joburg and joined the foundation, and loved working with Coke. And the work we were doing was water projects across the African continent, HIV and malaria projects, and some education work. But I left because of my boss, and he was quite a piece of work. And when I left, since I've turned 40, every year I've gone for a mammogram, and it was so bad in the job that I hated going to work every day, and I knew that it was impacting on my health. And very soon after I left, I went for my next mammogram, and there were little spots on that mammogram, and I ended up having a lumpectomy, and all was good. But I feel like when I had that lumpectomy, my boss's name was William, and I felt like I was getting William off my chest. So moving on, the day after I resigned from Coke, I didn't have an idea where I was going to go. Elise from Vital Voices contacted me and said, hey, we've got a position here in Washington, D.C. Would you be interested? And I said, of course. So I applied for the position, and I got it. And I moved to D.C. in 2013 to work with Vital Voices, the organization I still work with. And in January of this year, I moved to Denver, Colorado, and the place where I live right now feels a bit like living in Pine Valley. There are lots of beautiful hills just outside the window. Coming back to the story of the mammogram and the guy at Coke, last year, I'm sure like many of you, I found it a really difficult year. I was still working in DC, and hated living in isolation. And more than hated living in isolation, I hated President Trump. Couldn't stand the man, and I hated the fact that I was living in an environment where everything focused on what was going on the Hill. It was politics all the time. And so towards the end of the year, I just thought, you know what, I can't live here. I have to move. I have to change. And connected with a friend of mine, some of you may know her, Nadine Steen, who used to live in Malkearns. She lives in Denver, came to visit her in October and decided this is where I'm going to live. And so right now I'm sharing a house with Nadine, and that zebra skin over there is from somewhere in Swaziland. And coming back to the whole health story, and talking about changing things when you know that things are not good. I went for another mammogram just before I moved here, and I knew last year was a bad year, and I ended up having a diagnosis of early stage breast cancer. And so actually just over 2 weeks ago, I had a complete double mastectomy, a reconstructive mastectomy. So I still have my drains in, they're coming out tomorrow. But the lesson that I've learned from both that Coke experience and last year is really that thing about if you're in a situation that you know is not serving you, you need to change it and change it as quickly as you can. So for example, if you're thinking, oh, well, I'm going to hang in here. I hate my boss, but I'm going to hang in here for another couple of years because I've got to pay my kids' school fees. Don't do that. Make the change, because you could have what I've manifested, that kind of thing. It happens to a lot of people. That's the lesson I've learned. I'm also writing 2 books. One of the books I'm writing is about this holistic LifeMath exercise. So I'll share a tiny bit more about that later. But here's an example of what I wrote when I did my first LifeMath exercise in 2005. I wanted to choose a more fulfilling career path, to be handsomely rewarded on many levels, and to be able to travel internationally within my job. And where I am today, working in an organization with where I do work that I love, with what I think is the organization in the world that is working in this space. And it's allowed me to do pro bono work. So I completed that exercise in 2005, and I started traveling for work in 2006 and began really doing what I wanted to do in 2007. And there are a couple of things that I haven't achieved that I wrote down in that first version. For example, one of them is I love music, and I always wanted to be a radio DJ on Swazi Radio on Saturday mornings. Of course, that never happened because life has been too busy. But I actually realized that I do that in a way because in my spin classes that I teach, I choose the music, and I'm often telling the stories about each piece of music that we're listening to as we're climbing a hill or doing whatever. So in a different way, I've achieved that goal. And every time I do this exercise, I add my own goals. So the lessons that I've learned, one of them is that each of the jobs that I've held in my career journey so far has given me the tools for my next career step. And I don't consider any of those changes to be failure. The one that I've talked about is the succession planning, thinking about, when is the point in time in your business that you might be holding that business back? And I know a number of you haven't even yet started business. So this is just something to think about as you go through your life journey, is to think about that question, when is the time to bring in new and fresh energy? I've learned that you have to close one door firmly before another one opens. When I left Gone Rural, within about 2 weeks, I had those different opportunities coming in with TechnoServe, with Vital Voices. And then with Coke, the day after I resigned for that job, my next opportunity came along. And the one that I've already mentioned, if what you're doing is negatively impacting on your health or your well-being, you need to move on. So the purpose of this exercise is to provide you with a framework to plan your life and to focus on the goals that you want to set. And they can be short-term, medium-term, and long-term. So for me, short-term would be 6 to 12 months, medium-term 2 to 5 years, and long-term is much longer than that. So it's almost like a business plan for your life where you're thinking about what is it that I want to achieve, how am I going to make it happen, and when am I going to make it happen? And I think about this document as being like a living document. So every time I do this, I'm thinking about, okay, I've crossed that off my list. What are the new things that I want to add? And the thing that I would say as you start writing your goals, and we'll have time to do a few goals today, is to think about your vocabulary really carefully. So instead of using wishy-washy words, use powerful words as you commit those goals. And I really, really love this expression from Hafiz, who says, the words that you speak become the house that you live in. And I'm not sure how many of you have ever had that situation where you're cheesed off about something and you think, this person makes me sick. I don't know if you've ever had that, but if you think about that, think about what you're saying in your mind. You are giving that person permission to make you sick. So just everywhere throughout your life, think about the language, the conversations that you're having with yourself. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to, before we start writing down goals, is I want to read you this piece that you probably are familiar with. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to close your eyes, and I'm going to read this to you. It's written by Marianne Williamson, and it's called Our Deepest Fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I love this piece, and you might know it because Madiba, Nelson Mandela, quoted this in his inauguration speech when he became president of South Africa. I think this, for me, is really powerful because I do believe that a lot of us live in fear. It could be fear of the unknown, and this I love, fear of your own greatness. How powerful is that, to think about if you had to take away all those boundaries that you've created for yourselves, how much could you be doing? Could you be doing in the world? So before we do our goals, I want you to think about this question, and I want you to just write down what comes to your mind. I want you to write down 3 things. This is the question. If you had 24 hours to live, if you were going to die at exactly this time tomorrow, what would you do between now and then? And I want you to just write them down on that piece of paper. You can write in the chat if you like. Just write down the first 3 things that you would do. And if any of you would like to share one of your things in the chat, please do feel free to write it down. I know one of the things I would do is write a letter to my godchildren, telling them how much I love them and sharing a little bit about what I hope that they achieve in their lives. I will share a workbook with you at the end of this, so that there are other pieces in here that you might want to work on as well. Okay, I'm going to move on. Is that okay? I can't see many of your faces because you've all got your cameras switched off. But are you all good? We can move on? Yep, thank you. Great. Okay. This is a similar exercise, and this is sort of like a longer term thing. So the question is, if you were dying today, and I asked you, and I apologize for these being a little bit sort of sobering, these questions. But I like to do them at the beginning of this exercise because it makes you think about the things that you still want to achieve in your life. So if I asked you if you feel like your life is complete right now, I'm sure that the majority of you would say no, especially you who are still at Waterford, still at school. You're about to start your lives. So there's so much that you're going to do. So if you don't feel that your life is complete, and about 95% of people usually say no, they don't feel that their life is complete, what are the things that you wish would have happened that would have made your life complete? And an example would be, I wish I had always said the things that I never got around to saying to my friends and family. I wish I had told some people how much I loved and appreciated them. Or my life is not complete because I haven't married my Mr. Perfect and live a perfect life with that person. So the idea here, and I'm not sure how many of you have read or listened to the Law of Attraction books and audio. The idea is that by focusing on positive thoughts, you bring positive experiences into your life. So the idea is based on that idea that your thoughts attract like energy. So if you're living in a constant state of negative thinking, like thinking, today's going to be a crappy day, work is going to be awful, I'm not going to enjoy my classes, that you're already setting yourself up for failure. Whereas if you leap out of bed in the morning, you think, today is going to be the best day of my life, and you start with that energy, I can guarantee that when you walk into whatever room you're walking into, other people are picking up on that vibe. So this is about that idea of training yourself to think in the positive so that you're manifesting that. So if you take that example that we just did, like, I wish my life was, I wish I said all the things that I wanted to say to people, and you turn it into the positive, it would be, my life is complete because I say what I need to say and I do all the important things that I need to do. So if you start thinking like that, and you think about the things where you feel it's not complete, it could be something like, I feel like my life is not complete because I haven't learned to speak fluent Japanese, or my life is not complete because I haven't traveled to the 10 countries I still want to go to. And you turn it around into that, my life is complete because I now speak fluent Japanese and I've joined a conversation group on Zoom and I chat with them, with my friends once a week. Or I've traveled to those 10 countries and I've already planned my next 10. You're changing that whole energy that you have. Does that make sense? Yeah? Great. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is just write down one of those wishes. My life is not complete because I haven't, and fill in the blank for yourself. And if you want to share, feel free to type it in the chat. Okay, now what I'd like you to do is take that same one and turn it into the complete. My life is complete because whatever it was. So if you wrote down, my life is not complete because I haven't learned to speak fluent Japanese, this would be, my life is complete because I speak fluent Japanese. Okay, you got it? Give me a thumbs up if we're good to move on. Great, thank you. Okay, so we're going to do a little snapshot now of where I am in my life journey. What is my status in my life journey? So what I'd like you to do is, we've got 11 categories, and I know the writing is really small, so if you're not sitting close to the screen, I'll read them for you. What I'd like you to do is give yourself a rating in each of these different categories of where you feel like you are right now. Not where you want to be, but where you are. So the first one is health and wellness. Where are you? From 0 to 100. 0 being that it's awful, 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 and 100 being like, I'm done, I'm perfect, I'm where I want to be. So health and wellness is the first one. Then the next is God, spiritual, faith, religion. Where do you think you are right now? Number 3 is adventure, leisure, fun, all those cool things. Number 4 is romance, your love life, marriage. Where do you think you are right now with that one? Number 5 is your home environment, your physical environment of your home. Number 6 is your education and personal development. Where are you right now with that? From 0 to 100. Number 7, if you're already working, where are you in terms of career and business? And with all of these, if you don't feel like any of them are relevant to you or not speaking to you right now, that's cool. Number 8 is personal finance and admin, personal admin. So if you're still at school, this one might not be a particularly high score right now. Number 9 is paying it forward. And that is about what are you doing in society for other people? So it could be like volunteer work, stuff like that, if that's important for you. Number 10 is friends and family. And number 11 is our planet. How do you feel about your relationship with our planet? So just give yourself a score on each of those. And then if you had to plot it on a graph, would it look a little bit like this? I know mine is like this. This isn't exactly mine, but it's pretty similar to that. Yeah? Yes. Okay, so the idea is that hopefully you're wanting to get all of that stuff up into the hundreds to achieving everything that you want to achieve in your life. So what needs to change? If you go back to that chart and you think, well, I'm looking at that adventure, leisure, and fun, and I've given myself only 10% or 10 out of 100, well, that's something that I need to change. So think about those things you need to change. And think about this question: what does my most beautiful future life look like? What would it look like? So this exercise is really about your expectations of yourself. It's not about what your parents want for you, your partners, your kids. It's about what do you want for yourself. And so as you do the goal setting, I want you to think about those things of like the what, the how, and the time frame. So for example, eating the right foods. You know, if my goal was I want to lose 5 kilos in the next 2 months, it would be I want to eat the right foods, I'm going to buy the right foods, no longer buy junk food, and I'm going to start, and you need to give yourself a date. And you could have a starting date, you could have an achievement date, the date I want to have achieved that by, and think about all the different things that you need to do. So you want to kind of get into the micro details. We won't do all the micro details now, but I want you to start thinking about in each of those different categories, what are the things that you want to do to take your rating from wherever it was to the highest that you want it to be in your life. So the first one is health and wellness. What are the things that you want to achieve to take yourself to attain that perfect vision of health? Write down the first 3 things that you can think about. So one might be, I'm going to identify an exercise regime that works for me, that I know I'm going to enjoy, not the same thing that everybody else is doing that I actually hate. And I'm going to sign up on this date, write them down. For me, one of my big things is to drink more water. And in fact, I have this bottle here, which is like a liter of ginger and turmeric tea. Try and finish that every day and maybe fill it up again. We're going to take about 3 or 4 minutes on each of these different goals. So do think about it, and feel free if you've got any questions. Feel free to ask questions, type them in the chat, unmute yourself. You're welcome to do that. And I'd love to hear if anyone would like to share one of their goals. Please do share it. Anyone want to share one? Please raise your hand or unmute yourself. You're all shy. Okay, Zukiswa, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Zoe. My immediate one would be to shorten my workday and get more, which is something that intuitively I know I should be doing, but just haven't been, and come close enough to burnout. So that's one of my highest of the three.
Great. And how are you going to do that? The big question.
Yeah, that's a good question. One way is definitely to say no to more work. I'm very much a kind of involved and participating and kind of, probably, good at taking on too much, not just a lot, but taking on too much. And it's a hard habit to break.
Yeah. So one of those details might be to learn to say no more often.
Absolutely.
Great. Another great exercise to think about is, I don't know if you use any kind of calendar as you plan your day, but to maybe sort of like really plan it and stick to those time slots and build in time for the things that you'd want to do. So for example, if you're going to shorten your workday because you want to add in 30 minutes of yoga, maybe build that into your day and make sure that you stick to it. I know there are a couple of people, for example, I love my Outlook calendar, and if it's not on there, it basically doesn't happen. And different people have different ways of managing their time, but that is a great one. Thank you. So Owen Corsi, you wanted to share one?
I think the first one is drink more water, because I basically, if it's not water from the tap during lunch, I'm never going to drink water. So I think I'll make sure to put a bottle of water in my bag the night before, because if I do it in the morning, I'll forget. So and I'll start tomorrow, hopefully.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you for sharing. We're going to move on to the next one, which is spiritual faith, whatever that means to you. And again, what I'd like you to do is, if this is important for you, write down the first couple of things that you're going to commit to, and do the what, the how, and the when. One of my examples is I have a whole bunch of spiritual growth books that are sitting on my bookshelves. So I've committed to reading one of those books every month. And again, if you'd like to share one of your examples that you're writing down, please do write it in the chat or raise your hand. Love to hear. I always find that I learn so much during these from everybody else's ideas. Would anyone care to share one? Yes, Liz, please do.
Hi, Zoe.
Hi, so nice to see you.
You too. I was actually just thinking, throughout lockdown, I had a few friends that started meditating, and I was gifted, access to these meditation websites 3 times, and I've never taken it up. So I think I'm going to set a time and commit to saying my own affirmations every morning, but also accessing these gifts that I was given, and also start taking time to journal.
That is fantastic. Great. So when are you going to start journaling? What's the timeline you've put on that?
I have a really nice notebook. I've got a fetish for them. So I have a nice one that I bought this afternoon. So I'll start this evening.
Fantastic. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Would anybody else like to share? Unfortunately, I can't see all of you. Okay, Catherine, you're going to write in a journal non-stop for 7 minutes a day. That's a pretty awesome one. Wow. Do you already do that, Catherine? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Yes, I have done it on and off over the years. But it's a brilliant discipline. It's like very energizing.
Yes. Yeah. It's a great thing to do. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one, which is adventure and leisure and fun. And before we do that, I'm just going to share a little bit about this picture. I'm not sure how well you can see it. It's one of my favorite pictures that my brother took. It's a starscape. So it's basically, some of you might know this, when you put a camera on a tripod and you leave the shutter open for a number of hours, the lines that you can see there on the sky is actually the movement of the stars and the planets as the Earth rotates on its axis. And I love having this picture here in this particular section because I love the fact that my brother went and sat on the side of the hill for about 6 hours to take this picture with a glass of wine and his partner, and they just chatted while the camera was doing the work. So I know not many of us have the time to really do that take that kind of time out, but what are the things that you're going to commit to that you're not already doing if you didn't rate yourself very highly in terms of sort of relaxation and fun and adventure? What are those things that you're going to commit to? Write them down again. First 2 or 3 things that come to mind, and please do feel free to write in the chat, or if you want to share, raise your hand. Okay, who's going to share one of these? Spending more weekends on adventure trips, hiking and camping. Yeah, Philly, great. Where are you going to go?
Hi Zoe, it's Phil and Sholto here on a family plan here.
Great.
We're constantly looking for new destinations, and during COVID lockdown, we have found and explored more parts of Swaziland than ever before, and we found great joy and relief from the present situation through getting out there and being with nature on a very simple basis with lots and lots of friends and family. Yeah. Awesome. And I've loved seeing everybody's posts in gorgeous parts of Swaziland. It's been wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Are there any special secret places in Swaziland that you want to share with us? Best kept secrets? That could be dangerous, right? But I think, after living in Swaziland for 45 years, I just recently explored the lower potholes for the first time, and I couldn't believe that in all that time I hadn't ventured that far into Malolocha. So I think that would be a little treat to share with everyone.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Anyone else want to share one? No? Okay, start building my route across Africa. Wow. Zukiso, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I'm very conscious of my voice and like constantly chipping in, but
Please do.
the one thing that's been on my mind a lot is even certainly prior to COVID, my main travel, I love traveling, but my primary travel has been for work, which just it's a privilege, but still, it's not the same. And I've kind of been putting off my own kind of travel with loved ones and my dogs wherever possible. They go with me wherever I can take them. But that's and I think part of the maybe not the immediate next step is getting in, on the road, but definitely to actually start putting the trip on paper and talking to people and I think that's for me a doable next step.
Fabulous. It sounds awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay, moving on to the next, which always brings giggles, romance. And I know we've got quite a diverse audience here, so this is going to be an interesting one. If you didn't rate yourself very highly in terms of romance and it's important to you, what are the things that you're going to do? One of the examples that I've put here is to spend quality time with your sweetheart with no phones and TV and stuff like that for that hour or whatever it is every day, or to plan romantic weekends. And if you're single, maybe you want to be signing up for online dating, as it's quite difficult to meet people. I do want to share a story about the Project Horse and Carriage for anyone who's single. We had I run a number of mentoring programs in the work that I do at Vital Voices. And a number of years ago, we had this very, very sort of senior executive woman who was one of the mentors. She was a Wall Street banker in New York City. And one of her colleagues asked her one day, her name is Karen, and she said, "Hey, Karen, are you in a relationship? What's happening in your romantic life?" And she said, "Well, no, I'm not, because I'm just so busy with work." And the woman said to her, "Well, are you looking for someone?" And she said, "Yeah, I am." So she said, "Well, what we're going to do is we're going to create Project Horse and Carriage." And I'm not sure how many of you know that lovely song, which is sung by Frank Sinatra, "Love and marriage go together like a horse and carriage." And the project was this, it was an Excel spreadsheet, and it was basically like this life map. It was like what she was going to commit to doing, how and when. And she had to commit to things like she was signing up to online dating. She would go on one date a week for the next couple of months, etc. But the biggest thing that she did was she committed to telling her friends and family and colleagues that she was looking for a partner. And in a lot of the work that I do, I work with a lot of incredibly strong women around the world, and a lot of them are single. And many people assume that they're single out of choice, and they're not. It's not always out of choice. So she started doing that. She started telling her friends and family and colleagues that she was looking for a partner. And that very next Christmas, she was invited to a dinner party hosted by one of her work colleagues who wouldn't have invited her if she hadn't told him that she was looking for a partner. And the guy that opened the door of the apartment is the guy that she actually married, and she now has 2 kids. So if you're one of those single people that's looking for a partner, I'd recommend that you think about this particular one. Anyway, so what are you going to do if you haven't ranked yourself very highly in this area? If you feel like there is room for improvement, what are the things you're going to commit to? Write down the first couple of things that you're going to do. Would anyone like to share one of their commitments to themselves? Okay. Oh, I'm just checking a time check here. So, oh, in Corsi, have we got 15 minutes or have we got 30? Are we finishing on the half hour?
We have 15 minutes. We'd love to leave the chat open for interaction at the end, but we can also eat a little of that time. But we just have around 15 minutes.
Okay. All right, because I was hoping that we would do the interaction as we go through this. It'll probably be another 20 minutes or so. Is that okay with everyone?
It's okay
Yep.
with me.
Okay, great, excellent. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anybody offering to share any of their commitments in romance, so we'll move on to the next one, which is your physical environment. So in terms of this, what are the things that you're going to do if you didn't rate yourself very highly here? One of the lovely examples that I like is always having a vase of beautiful flowers to welcome me home. It's sort of like it sets a feeling in my home. Or maybe you want to unpack that box of photos and pictures and hang them up on the wall. Or you might want to declutter and get rid of a lot of stuff. So what are the things that you're going to do to take your physical home environment to where you want it to be? And I'd love to hear some thoughts from people on this one. Nadia, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's Elton. I'm together with Nadia.
Yeah.
I think definitely one thing, we've moved quite a lot in the past from house to house. I don't even want to remember how many houses we rented. And we always found a house that was maybe in a bit of disrepair, and we always ended up fixing it, which made the landlord very happy. But ultimately, we did find our own space here in Iveni, and we bought a house and we fixed it up, and we're living in it. But what we've actually never gotten around to is actually decluttering or getting rid of all the baggage we have collected over the years. So we have a storeroom and a shed which is absolutely full. It has bicycles from the kids when they were 2 and 3. And we promised ourselves last year, oh yeah, look, COVID, and this is a perfect opportunity. We'll go in there and we'll clean it all up. And then, of course, it came. Then December came, and it was, oh yeah, no, we'll spend some time in December. And that passed, and we never got round to it. So definitely, the both of us have sort of made a commitment. We will need to put a date to it, and we will need to absolutely put it down to say, let's do this now. We need to get rid of all the old stuff, have a big garage sale, just get rid of everything from the past that we don't need anymore. We definitely don't need any more in the house as it is now. I think everything's pretty much full. So that's really, I think, one important goal that I think we have together, that we need to clear out all the baggage from the past and declutter our house. Yeah.
And it always feels so good when you do it. It feels very therapeutic. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, thanks. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I see Janine's written, we're going to sell our house and buy in Howick. Yep, great idea. Excellent. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is education and personal development. And I think this one is really important for all of us. Whether you're still at school or halfway through life or 3/4 of the way through life, there's always more things that people want to add to their toolkit. So what are the things that you're going to commit to for yourself in terms of your own personal development? And I'd love to hear some examples here from people in terms of what they're thinking about. Please do feel free to raise your hand on this one if you have an idea. Nadia, is your hand still raised, or is that from before? Oh, Janine, go ahead.
Thanks, Zoe. I think for me, a lot of my work is around storytelling and helping people to share their stories and find out who they are and do these types of workshops. And I'm currently reading a book that's just been published by a guy here in South Africa who also shares his own life story. And I know that when I do my own, I use the Tree of Life as a narrative therapy tool. And I know that when I share my story, so many people afterwards say to me, so when is your book coming out?
Yeah.
And I think part of, like 35 years of community development experience and so on, I need to just sit down and start writing it, even if it's not, comprehensive, or it's not kind of ready to go to the publishers immediately, but just to put it all down. So I think that's what I need to do with this.
Great. So are you going to commit to a date? A start date, or that's
when I'm not so busy, and then the next month I get the next month of trainings and workshops and various things. But I do. I mean, because also with the house move and so on, we need to maybe once we're settled in KZN, I need to just put aside, even if it's like Friday afternoon or something like that, and just say that's my time. I'll sit in a corner somewhere and I'll start writing.
Yeah. Great. The power of this exercise really is in being detailed about it. So even if you know that you're going to start on the 1st of July or the 1st of September, it's like writing it and literally writing, I commit to starting to write, it could be the first chapter or it might be in the middle of the book on this date, and sticking with it. And you'll know that like in 2 years' time, when you go back and look at it again, you think, wow, I actually did achieve that thing, and I did it by the date, or maybe I was a little bit late in doing that. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So in terms of career and business, I know a number of you on this call are already into your sort of second and third businesses, and some of you are just starting out. So do write down what the things are that you still have in mind in terms of next steps. So Janine, that storytelling might also fit in here, as well as in personal development, in terms of completing the first manuscript. So I'd love to hear from some of the students what you have in mind. Is there anybody who'd like to share one of their goals, career goals? Oh, Owen Kosi?
Okay, so I thought this one would fit back with the education, but I think I can bring it over this side. Basically, I think I want to start looking at my career options now and just exploring my university options now, because I feel like I'm at a place where I'm just so confused, like where I'll go next and what the next step is. But like I have something clear in my mind, like I know I want to do something, that just like impacts lives, and just like I just want to do a whole lot of community work. So I just think it would be thinking along those lines now and probably starting as soon as possible.
Great. Thank you. Candy.
Hi.
Hi.
So I completed my IB2 last year, and so I've been thinking about the college thing and all of that, and I had the chance to do over COVID to do a number of photography courses and all that, and now that I've sort of got a little bit more time before college, I have been thinking about starting a sort of small photography business. So yeah.
That's great. So you're going to start that photography business?
I already sort of started a little bit, but I've been trying to sort of boost it a little bit more now. Yeah. So
okay.
The next goal for that one is sort of outreach at the current moment.
Great. Yeah. Maybe you can create a little business plan with some steps in it. Yeah. That's great. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Excellent. So just remember, you want to be specific about the things and the things you want to achieve. So Candy, for example, if you've already got 3 clients for your photography, you might want to establish a goal, which would be, I'm going to secure 5 new clients for my photography business between now and X date. And then you can go into the detail of what that would look like. How are you going to make that happen? Who do you need to talk to? Do you need to amplify your social media? You know, all of those different pieces that go into it. So you want to start really building the detail in each goal so that you see it and you actually manifest it. That's the idea with the exercise. Okay, we're going to move on to finance, and this one will be, I'm sure, with our mixed audience, it's going to be kind of all over the place. But in terms of personal finance, what are the things that you want to achieve? And I've put a couple of examples here for the students. I would a couple of the things that I've added in here are things like start saving a percentage of your salary the minute you start working, and maybe creating a plan, a date and a plan where you want to buy your first house. For others of you, maybe it's you want to be financially independent and create a walkaway or a what if fund for yourself. A walkaway fund would be a fund where if you're employed and you're not really happy, you want to sort of have enough money saved that if you decided to tell your bosses to take a hike, you would have a little bit of freedom to do that. And a what if fund would be, for example, if one of your friends is an entrepreneur and they're starting a new business, a great startup, and they say, come and invest with me, you've got that additional funding available to do that. So just thinking about all the different aspects of your financial life and financial planning. What are the things that you want to commit to in terms of your personal finance? Yael, I've just read your note. That's fabulous. Congratulations. Your note in the chat. Would anyone like to share one of their financial goals? I know that everyone learns a lot from sharing. Yes, Janine.
Oh yeah, I also don't want to speak too much, but I can just say that this is one thing that Jim and I have recently done, and it's such a wonderful feeling to have gone through a whole process with a financial management company, and they've given us incredible guidance about what to do with the money and how to make it last, and right down to estate planning, all of that stuff. So it really is something worth doing. So I can just certainly vouch for that exercise.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, anybody else on the financial one? Anyone want to share something that they're doing or something that they're going to commit to? Or any nuggets of wisdom?
I can go.
Yes.
So I recently started a building project. So I think for me, one of the things that I've written down is to be more like to start creating a budget and actually sticking to it, and just trying to track my spending more so that I know where the money is going and how I can maximize and hopefully finish the project quicker. So I think one of the things like that you said about setting timelines is something that I'm also noting for that project, to actually have a date that I would like the project to be completed by, rather than just being like, oh, in the next 2 or 3 years I want to be done building. So that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. Yeah, I think dates are always good. Dates and details. Going back to what we talked about at the beginning, the power of manifesting. If you put in a date, and you lock it into your calendar or whatever, you've got something to work towards. It's in your mind, and for me, I feel like you're going to be more successful at achieving it when you put that more detail in there. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is paying it forward. And examples of this in my life would be things like mentoring other people or volunteering in a community service place, stuff like that. But it's different things for different people. So if this is something that's important to you, what are the things that you're going to commit to doing that you're not already doing in terms of paying it forward in society? I like your note that I just saw there in the chat, Nolene. Yes, consumerism is quite something. Any thoughts on this one, on paying it forward? Any ideas that you'd like to share with anybody else? Yes, Owen Kosi.
I think I speak too much, but on this one, I think because I live in the rural areas and I pretty live in a secluded place and like the community is far away, but I think if I could go out and actually interact with the young girls my age instead of staying inside the house and just, I think going to WK gives me an experience that I feel like, being able to share with other people, especially my peers, I think it will go a long way. So maybe just getting out of the house and interacting with people in my community.
That's fabulous. I love that idea. And I think especially if you're living in communities where there isn't probably too much exposure to people who are getting out of the community, I think that's a great thing. It's fabulous. And you would be a role model to so many people. And committing to paying school fees is a great one. Yes, Jason.
I wanted to say, for those who are still at Waterford who are in this call, there's plenty of like ComServe outreach programs that you can enter in. You can do community outreach, so there's plenty of opportunities there. And even if you're not still currently at Waterford, there's still lots of ways just to help out.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Okay, moving on to the next one. I think this is the second last one that we're going to do, is friends and family. If this is something where you haven't given yourself a very high rating, what are the things that you still want to do to change that, to take it where you would like it to be? And it could be things like, as we move closer towards the end of lockdown, scheduling like a once a month socially distanced lunch with my friends. What are those things that you're going to commit to here as we start kind of like a new reality? Any thoughts from anyone that you want to share? No? Spending a week a month with my sister. Wow. That's great. If you're able to do it, Nolene. Yeah. Fantastic. Eileen?
I think I clapped by mistake. I'm so sorry. But so I think because of quarantine and everything, I feel like a lot of my friends, like the opposite happened to me. I became social. I was very like antisocial. I had social anxiety. I became very social. But a lot of my friends are feeling this weird feeling like they don't know how to speak to people and everything. And with the new students in IB1 and everything, I want to like start speaking to people more. to make everybody comfortable in a sense. I know I can't like achieve that. Like it's kind of like a big dream, but I just want to take slow steps to like make everybody comfortable in specific environments and to make them like more social.
That's great. That sounds like a fabulous project.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think it is a really interesting time as we go through, as all the lockdown regulations start sort of getting lighter and lighter. I think there's going to be a lot of socialization, sort of having to reimagine what it looks like. So it'll be great to be thinking about those kinds of projects now. Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the last one, which is our planet. And this is something that I added in because I'm sort of like, feel pretty strongly about it, that we all need to be thinking about what we're leaving for next generations. So in terms of our planet and climate change and stuff like that, what are the things that you're going to commit to that you're not already doing or you want to do more of to make sure that we aren't destroying where we live, this gorgeous planet that we have? A couple of examples I've given here. One is to stop contributing to plastic waste and using things like reusable shopping bags, or not using fancy wrapping paper for presents, things that can't be recycled. And I'd love to hear any thoughts that any of you have on things that you're doing or that you're going to commit to do in this area. So please feel free to raise your hand or type anything into the chat in this area. Yes, Jason.
Say that something people often like living after the planet is fast fashion, which is like clothes that are being produced like every day. I'm not sure if I don't have the specifics, but one of the biggest contributors to like pollution and like plastic waste. So I think if you don't need to buy more clothes, don't do it. Or if you do so, make sure you buy from sustainable place, or you somehow repay the environment, if that makes sense. Like maybe you did donate.
Yeah.
You match up the money you donate to the money that you spend on fast fashion clothes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Nadia.
Yeah, that was me, sorry.
Elton. Yes.
Obviously, being an architect, in the past 10, 15 years, I've been very much involved with green building, going to all the conventions annually, trying to follow as many as I can online in the last year with COVID, obviously. So the one thing, obviously, that I'm doing already is being very firm with our clients that, and maybe giving them a worst case scenario, the fact that the building industry is responsible for about 60% of global emissions. And we are a major contributor. So knowing that also green buildings reduce carbon and things like that by up to 80%, we have a very sort of powerful position that we can use to shape the future. And I think Eswatini, being a very young country with regards to development, I've been trying to, and I'm still working with this, as trying to set up a green building workshop, together with getting the green building movement officialized in Eswatini. But the green building workshop is really there for people to be able to come and get an idea of what it means to build sustainably. So showing them different ways of construction, showing them how they can save carbon, and not only just with the things that might cost money in the beginning, like solar and things like that, but other ways that we can recycle and we can sort of create sustainable developments, and that goes from just the public, but it also goes for the municipal councils and who are really the first people who try to slow everything down. They've got a limited budget, but I don't think that they look far enough about what is possible out there. So I always invite them along. If there's a speaking, or if there's a workshop online or something like that, I'll send an email, to municipal councils and things like that. So I think it's just to try and maintain that and increase that a bit more to eventually get that as commonplace in Eswatini.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Elton. Owen Corsi, you've got your hand up.
I think for me it would be being intentional with like my plastic waste, like in terms of
the connection doesn't seem to be very good.
Eswatini has recently adapted this new thing of you have
we're losing
the chat.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, I see we've just got a couple of minutes left, so I'd like to wrap up before we get chased off here. So we've been through those 11 sets of goals, and I hope that you're going to keep thinking about this over the next sort of like days and weeks, and what are the other goals that you want to add in each of these sections. You know, it's not something that we can necessarily do in 90 minutes and get it done, and that's like your life map done. But there may be other goals that don't fit necessarily into all of the categories that we've covered. So if there are any others that you want to commit to, feel free to write them down. And then you might want to prioritize, because if you've got 11 sets of goals and you've written maybe 5 in each, that's 55 goals. And obviously you can't achieve them all at once. So you want to think about what are the ones that you want to address first, and maybe put in some timelines there. And then maybe you want to put the stuff into your calendar. You know, if you've committed to, for example, you're going to exercise more often, where are you going to squeeze that into your already busy day? Where's that going to fit into your day or your week? So think about how each of you does that individually. And then be kind to yourself, because you don't have to do it all at once. It'll take time to do. And then the last exercise here is really, once you've done all of that, is to look through all of those goals that you've written, and then create a sentence as though you've manifested each of those goals that you set out to. So, for example, in health, it might be, I live a healthy lifestyle where I manage my physical, mental, and spiritual health on a daily basis, and I maintain them at the highest level. So write it down as though it's something that you've manifested, and you can look at it once a day or once a week, something like that, just to keep you back focused in the things that you're committing to. I think this is really, really powerful once you've finished getting clarity on what all those goals are. And then maybe you want to do this like once a year, go back to this. I know Philly and Sholto, who are on the call, I think they joined us about a year ago doing the same exercise, and I'm thrilled that they're back to update those goals again. For me, it works really well to think, okay, well, I've achieved that, but here's an area where there's still more work that needs to be done. And so maybe put a recurring date in your diary to check on your goals. Do you want to check once a month, or do you want to find an accountability buddy to hold you accountable to the goals that you've set? So those are the next steps. And then as you achieve your goals, as I mentioned at the beginning, I've started writing a book about this exercise, and part of it is sharing the methodology, but the bigger part is I am actually sharing real life stories of people who've achieved goals that they've set as a result of this exercise. And I know of about 5 children who've come into the world because of this exercise, where people realized that, oh, I hadn't planned to have kids, but now I do actually want to have them, and have gone on that path. You know, whatever it is, I'd love to hear from you. So if you'd like to stay in touch with me, I've put my email here on the slide. It's zoe@zoedeansmith.com. Please stay in touch. And if you'd like me to send you a copy of this workbook, email me and I'll send you this. And there is more detail to it than I've shared here. This was a sort of a quick squeeze into 90 minutes. If you're on LinkedIn and you've enjoyed this workshop, please do consider endorsing me on LinkedIn. And I think that's it. So I'm going to hand back over to Owen Corsi. I want to say thank you for sharing with me and with all of us. And it's been a delight. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everybody who's still on.
Thank you so much for a wonderful workshop. I think I learned a lot today, and I'm definitely going to use this, especially with planning, because I suffer so badly with procrastination. And I think I'll even tell a few of my friends about this just so I can have someone to be accountable to. And I think that will help me a lot. And I think we've all benefited from this workshop, and we're just extremely, extremely grateful for all of this. Thank you so much, Zoe. It's been a great journey. I think it's 90 minutes well spent, and we've all learned a lot. And I think everyone here can walk away with something, at least, and a few goals to, be accountable for. And just to mention that we do have our principal here with us, and we'd like to thank her for joining, Ms. Patricia Angoy, and we love her so, so much. And on behalf of the Advancement Office and the team, we'd like to say thank you to each and every person for attending. It is 7:30, so we will be closing the meetings. Thank you so much. Just to echo everything that's been said, at the start, I did mention that we are recording this, and the recording will be accessible perhaps in a few weeks. And thank you everyone for attending, and please do attend the next one. I think we'll bring an even better one. And we enjoy these speaker series so much, and thank you so much, Zoe, yet again. I enjoyed this one so much. If we do have time, we will leave the meet open just for a few minutes. Maybe you want to say hi to a few of your classmates, from the past. We'll leave it open for being here.